Hi there. Thank you for joining us for today's 10-minute talk. Today we're going to be talking about rankings and fit. And before we begin, let me introduce myself. I'm Michelle Larson with Knowledge for College, a money solver company, where we're trying to bring common sense back into the college planning process. Please feel free to comment or ask questions. If I don't get to them before the end of the session, I will answer them before the end of the day. So please feel free to comment. So again, thanks for joining us. First, we're going to start out talking about rank. And I've got to tell you something, that this may not be a talk that you want to hear, or it may not be a good talk for you. Let me give you an example. One time I often do presentations at local high schools, and I was doing this presentation, and this gentleman came up to me and said that he was getting ready to retire and he was going to send his daughter to Pepperdine. And I said something to the effect that it's $70,000 a year to go to Pepperdine. And we're talking, and I'm thinking, how are you going to do this? And he said, oh, I have $10 million in the bank. So if you have $10 million in the bank, or you're financially very well off, then you don't need to listen to me. What I'm going to talk to you today is for the everyday person who may be middle class or upper middle class, has some savings, has no savings, but we're going to talk about rankings and how it works from the financial standpoint. But before we begin, let's talk about what makes a school rank really well. So what makes a school rank really well is oftentimes the number of published papers that professors write. So professors are often paid for the number of published papers, number of papers they get published. So here's my thinking. If professors are busy writing papers, guess what they're not doing? Teaching, right? So we find these really highly ranked schools, and we find out, if we do a little digging, that most classes, or many classes, I won't say most, many classes are taught by graduate assistants. So typically you're paying a premium to go to a highly ranked school so that your son or daughter can be taught by someone who is 3 or 4 years older than they are. So this to me doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What I look for is job opportunities. I think we have to stop looking at college like we looked at it 30 years ago. 30 years ago, I think if you went to a highly ranked college, it really meant something. In today's world, your major is actually more important, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. What I want to talk about first is the other way that colleges are ranked, and that is through salaries. So you look at something like an MIT or a Harvard, and they say, well, we've gotten much more salary than any other school. Well, this makes sense to me because they're pulling the top 1% of people. So there was a study done by Kruger and Dale, and what they found was that if you took somebody who got admitted into Stanford, but did not go to Stanford, but had gotten admitted, had the stats and got admitted into Stanford, but for whatever reason chose another school, statistically speaking, they were on par with all of the Stanford graduates as far as how much money they earned. And so it just makes sense that the top 10% of the people that they choose from are always going to do better. And the other thing is, engineering schools like MIT and Georgia Tech, they graduate mostly engineers, and engineers are always going to make a lot of money coming right out of the bat. I one time had they weren't a client, just a family that called me a lot, but they never did become a client. But they said they ended up sending their son to Georgia Tech. Now, they were in Florida, so Georgia Tech is an out-of-state public school, and out-of-state is always going to be your most expensive option, just so you know. So I said something about, this child was very bright. He probably could have gone for free at a Florida university, but his father decided to take out a $25,000 a year loan, or that's what he told me. They were going to do a Parent Plus loan for $25,000 a year because his son found out that at Georgia Tech they earn 10% more as graduates. So let's run these numbers. This is how I want you to start thinking about college. Let's run these numbers. Let's say he graduated with an engineering degree, and at any other college he would have made $80,000. But because he graduated from Georgia Tech, he was going to make $88,000. So he's going to make $8,000 more a year, and they're going to go into debt $100,000 in order for him to do that. The numbers just don't add up to me. So what I tell my students, who I'm not saying don't apply to those reach schools. What I'm saying is apply to 1 or 2 reach schools, but have the understanding that if the numbers don't work, find a way to have financial fit be a part of your equation, because that's what seems to be missing. So let's start talking about fit. First of all, I want to let you know that there's more than one perfect fit. It's like a soulmate, right? There's more than one soulmate. There's more than one perfect fit. I've had people tell me, oh my goodness, she's wanted to go to Harvard ever since she could say the word Harvard. Well, that may be true. And like I said, go ahead and apply. But I think as parents, we need to say to our sons and daughters that this is how much we can pay for college. If you can go for less than that or that amount, then by all means we'll send you. But you need to have a good plan B, a good financial fit for plan B, because every state has great colleges, and your college experience depends on your attitude, not the name on the college, not the name on your diploma, excuse me. And so I just want you to keep that in mind. So you matter more from a job perspective than the name of the college on your degree. So just keep that in the back of your head. So my rule of thumb is if you can't afford to visit the college, then you can't afford to go there. And one time I wrote that on a page that I contribute to, on a Facebook page that I contribute to. I said that, and you would not believe the amount of negative comments I received. How can you tell her how to spend her money? This person had said she was a single mom of 3 kids, and her daughter really wanted to get out of the state they were in, and she couldn't afford to go on college visits. You need to go on college visits. So my first rule of thumb when we're talking about fit is if you can't afford to go there, if you can't afford to visit, then you can't afford to go there. That's just a rule of thumb that I have. Also, for most families, you're going to find that in-state colleges, private and or public colleges in your state or maybe the surrounding states are the cheapest way to go. And I'm all about how do we get our sons and daughters educated, get them to the next step in life without breaking the bank. And these are things to keep in mind. In Florida, we're very blessed here in Florida that we have a very affordable college system. Again, that's both public and private. And I meet with a lot of people who say, well, Johnny really wants to go to another state. He really wants to get out of Florida. And my response is, again, you can apply, but we're going to run the numbers. And if the numbers don't make sense, we're not going to go there. So I'm not saying don't apply. I'm just saying be aware of the numbers. Because at the end of the day, Johnny's going to be, 21 when he graduates from college? Let's be reasonable here. I think you would be better served to go to where it's less expensive, because believe me, employers do not care. They do not care where you have graduated from. What they care about is what you majored in. And so that leads me to my next point about fit. So from a fit standpoint, what I want you to remember is that you need to make sure that they have your major. So I ran into this one student and I said, oh, where are you going to school? And she told me, and I said, what are you majoring in? And she said, biology. And I said, well, what are you going to do with a biology degree? Because I'm really curious, what does one do with a biology degree? She said, well, I want to be a nurse. And I said, so why are you not majoring in nursing? And she said, well, I really wanted to go to this school and they didn't have nursing as an option. So that to me is a bad financial decision. I think that we offer an in-depth assessment that we give to every student that works with us, because that's how strongly I feel that you need to pick your major first and then pick a college. And the other thing is you need to really experience the college. I'm a big believer in going there, taking the tour, talking to the department where you're going to be in, asking lots of questions, sitting in on a class. Let's do our due diligence first. Too many families wait until they've applied to 15 or 20 colleges and then they start the visit process. Let's start visiting early, maybe sophomore year even, and get a feel for the campus, because believe me, it is important that you get on campus, that you feel for it, because campuses all have a different feel, and you may like a campus and your son and daughter may not like it, the campus. So you need to get them on campus and you need to visit. So when we talk about fit, I'm a big believer that we should go to college to get a job. And Malcolm Gladwell, he's a pretty famous author, he did a study once and he found out that the top 10% of students that graduated at a less well-known college did better than the bottom 30% of students that graduated from a top-tier college. So just keep that in mind. I think culturally, we seem to have forgotten that we're the client, right? We are the customer. It seems to me that we beg these colleges, please take our child, please take our child. It'll be $60,000 a year. Okay, no problem. We're gonna go ahead and do that. And I just think there's something wrong with that. Can you imagine going into an auto dealership and saying, hey, I want to drive this Porsche. Can you please let me drive this Porsche? I practiced my driving. We don't do that. We try to get the best deal possible. And I think that's how we need to start looking at college. So from a ranking standpoint, just understand what rankings mean. And from a fit standpoint, you want to make sure that not only do they have your major, but that your son or daughter feels comfortable on the campus. And make sure you visit. So like I said, if you have questions or comments, please leave them below. If you haven't done so, please like our Facebook page. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. Thanks so much. Have a great day. And I look forward to seeing you again in a couple weeks. Thank you.